welcome back to this week's session. I'm one of your hosts, licensed clinical social worker, Kristen Gingrich.
I'm licensed clinical psychologist, Dr. Kristen Casey.
And I'm licensed psychologist, Dr. Jessica Rabon.
This week is a really cool episode where we are talking all about reality TV and mental health. Later in this episode, we even have a guest coming on, and you might know him from Love is Blind. His name is Nick Thompson. He's from season 2 to answer all of your questions that you guys may have. So settle in, take a seat, and welcome to group therapy. But before we do that, I want to dive into last week's reflection question, where we asked the group members this question. What is one piece of advice or encouragement that you have for someone that is an emerging adult? We got some really great answers. Other than mine, which was don't take out all the student loans.
Take out student loans.
We got some good ones, right? Someone said, don't measure your success by using someone else's ruler.
Ooh. I like that a lot, actually.
I know, right?
We'll put it on our...
On our merch.
We'll make a post about it. Yeah.
We'll make a post, right? None of us know what we're doing. Mistakes will be made and growth will happen. There's a ton of nobody knows what they're doing.
Because nobody does.
True. Yeah.
We don't. There's no timeline. Live your life at your own pace. Don't compare yourself to other people.
I like that.
Friendships, both the amount of time and time spent, become quality over quantity.
That's so true.
Let's see. Tell more people to F off. Do what you want to do and learn your lessons.
That's what I'm talking about. That's so good.
Yeah. One thing at a time is enough. Just because it was your major doesn't mean it's your destiny.
I love that.
Yo, they're coming up with some straight fire.
I know.
So good.
Try new things. Talk to new people. See? K10, try new things like skydiving.
Maybe.
Somebody, side note, not on that, but on our post that you made for that episode, said you can do indoor skydiving because it's a lot safer.
Do that. I'll do that.
That is the saddest version of skydiving.
We're talking about an anxiety hierarchy, exposure with response prevention.
Exactly.
Okay,
20
we need
feet above the ground.
Anyway,
you are wiser than you realize.
I love it.
And don't try to be perfect.
Oh, I like that.
I love it.
That's some good ones. Those were from a mixture of Instagram and Threads now.
Ooh,
maybe over on Threads being a little chaotic.
Trendy.
So that's what I was going to say. We need to put that quote on Threads. And then I was like, I'm not even going to bring up Threads, but you all did.
We all did. We can't help it. It's our new hyper focus, right?
It's so good.
But this week we are talking all about reality TV. Do you guys watch reality TV?
So I was thinking about this and I was like, no, I don't. But then I realized technically HGTV is reality TV. House shows and cooking competitions and things like that. But when I think of things like The Bachelor, Love is Blind, those types of reality shows, not currently. I used to watch Teen Mom. Teen Mom was my favorite show
Teen
ever.
Mom was so good. Yeah.
Or actually, my husband and I recently just watched, I can't even remember what season was of The Amazing Race. So those types of reality shows.
I forget that those are reality shows.
Me too.
I always think of reality shows for some reason, The Bachelorette or
Real Housewives or something.
Real Housewives. Chaotic. That's what Big Brother. Those are reality shows for sure.
Survivor.
Now that I'm
what
thinking
was
about
that reality show that reached out to you?
The Mole. And I was like, you do not want me on The Mole. No, absolutely not. It's a competition. I'd be like, I'll watch, yeah. I'll be here for support. No, I was thinking, because when you said reality TV, I was thinking that same thing. And I was like, I don't watch that because I usually, I'm almost 10 months off of crime documentaries. So I haven't watched any of those. But Hell's Kitchen, I've been hooked on. And I didn't realize that that's reality TV too, And
it's always just so interesting. The range of reality. I remember the first reality shows that I remember watching was The Real World.
Do you remember The Real
MTV,
World?
Real World Philadelphia. I remember watching that because that was like close to me.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, Jersey Shore was technically reality TV.
Yeah.
I watched the chaotic
K-Town was
ones,
there
for sure.
with, you know,
K-Town was actually in the background of all of those.
I was at DJ's for anybody from Jersey, just like fist pumping.
when Snooki was running down the beach, K-Town, you can see her actually in the background.
I was just like, I gotta be there.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta be there.
With your nails.
In the library when they were writing the letter.
Just...
I had to call you out.
They've seen me, all my old pictures. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, when I think of reality TV, though, I think of the thing that hits me the most is the banter between the contestants or the people or the cast, you know, and just like the personalities and how they clash or they get along or like whatever. I'm always like analyzing all that stuff.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I definitely have found like, you know, since, you know, becoming a therapist and doing all of this, I find that I do watch reality. I can't watch it for just plain enjoyment anymore. I am always like, I'm always analyzing. What was the last one that I watched? Too Hot to Handle was probably, it's a reality show.
Oh God,
on
Kristen.
Netflix. It's so bad. Where basically they put all of these hot people together in a mansion and like they're not allowed to touch or hook up.
Wait, so how do you win? Like, how do you?
It's like they're there to like
last
work
man
on
standing?
themselves. Yeah,
like
they're
Survivor?
there to like work on themselves.
Oh my God, that sounds
It's but like I remember watching this and being like, what? I'm getting I'm getting secondhand embarrassment over here. Like, but I also like, I mean, even watching, you know, I watched season 1 of Love is Blind when it came out. I watched season 2.
I did too. I did not.
And so again, just watching that and like, you know, having my own opinions built about that, which we'll probably get into when Nick joins in.
I'm so excited to hear his perspective on things.
I know.
You know, I'm so excited because I think for me, and this might just be me, but I have anxiety. So whenever I watch shows, I feel like I take on the emotions of people. So if they're having a conflict, I'm like, my parents are fighting. Like I literally like feel it. Like it's like a visceral reaction. So I have to like mentally distance myself. But sometimes I think like, depending on the person, I think of like mental health, I think of physical health, well-being. And like, sometimes there could be like a comparison to like, I remember watching Alone. I don't know if you guys have seen that, where they put people like in some remote area. I think that's reality TV. Yeah. Some remote area and they have to survive. And I'm like, I don't know any survival skills. So then I'm like, oh my God, if the apocalypse happens, I'm screwed. Like I got so anxious just by watching like 3 episodes. I was like, I'm not going to survive. Yeah, go ahead.
And then there's me, I'm sitting there, I'm like, why the fuck would you bring that knife? That's a stupid idea. Oh, well, literally, I'm sitting in the comfort of my own bed, stuffing my face with popcorn.
Right, like you should have caught that fish hours ago. Like what are we doing?
I'm watching. Me and my husband used to watch Naked and Afraid a lot, and I would be sitting there being like, why are you drinking that water, you dummy? You're going to get sick. And what happens in the next scene? Their brains out because they got sick. And like, I think that's also, you know, something about like reality TV is we are removed from that. So we get to, we form those opinions based off of the things that we are seeing and what is being given to us. I mean, how many of us and how many reality TV shows is there always the villain?
Oh my God,
absolutely.
Always.
There's always the villain, whether or not they're actually the villain or not. And a lot of times we hear that come out after the fact, that they're like, I'm actually a pretty decent person.
Yeah. And going off that, you know, it's called reality TV, but it's not real. Like it's all just. Was that like the most just comment ever?
Yes. Absolutely was.
Because I even think of, sorry to ruin this for anybody that like watches House Hunters. You think like a very mild, like HGTV show. They already know what house they're buying. Like it's all fake. They've already bought the house.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes. Or like, same with like Property Brothers and things like that. So you think of shows like that. And so then you think of, you know, The Bachelor, Bachelorette, like these more like dating shows. You know that they are editing, cutting, clipping different clips together to make it look like something's happening that's not. Or even just with going back to Teen Mom, because that's probably the reality show I've watched the most. In newer seasons, they like took down the wall, and so you actually see them interacting with producers and stuff, and you hear like the questions that they're asking to like prompt a conversation.
Yeah.
So it's not real, yet we are so drawn in to watching it, comparing ourselves, like, and K10, I totally relate to the anxiety. Even, I don't know, I guess this is reality TV, Shark Tank. I can't watch it. I cannot. Because I get so anxious when people are like pitching their company. And I'm like, this is so awkward. Oh my gosh. Like, they don't know the answers to the questions. And then it makes me
because I want everybody to win. And that's where I get caught up. I'm like, just give them all the money. Like they work this hard. Like give them, just invest in them. Gosh, like it takes such courage to get up there. But no, I'm with you, Jess. And I think it's interesting too, because I think about even just all three of us, Justin's on here, but him included. I'm sure I don't want to speak for him, but like we're like influencers in a different way, you know, and all three of us I know have like had clips pulled of us or our words kind of twisted in some way, even though we didn't mean it that way, for the sake of publicity or for the sake of like press or something out of our control, you know.
Whoopi.
I was thinking of that too. And I was like, that is not the intention, but other people view that, like Kristen's saying, like you could be so far removed from it, and then all you're seeing is whatever TV is giving you, and that's what you think is real. Even if you know, okay, it's cut, there's producers, all this stuff, you're still watching it in real time, thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said that. Like, you know.
My favorite thing with reality shows is paying attention to the little things. So like when I do watch reality shows, I watch the glasses. Because that is a quick way to see
if they've cut.
And you'll notice like I forget what season they did it in, but in Love is Blind, they actually switched the glasses because they were see-through. And like there were multiple incidences. And I've seen this in other reality shows where they're talking and the glass is empty. And then in the next scene, the glass is full. Well, why would the glass be full afterwards? Other than like, yes, you can absolutely get another drink, but like and then it's empty again. And like, it's the continuity, like you can point out a lot of the times of like, did they actually drink that and get a refill, or are you cutting it? Yeah. To make your views. Cause we get it. You know, views make reality TV go round. If they didn't have views, they wouldn't exist. But again, like cutting things for the sake of content, for the, what's the word I'm looking for? At the expense of the people who are doing it.
100%. I think, and most of this is going to be about mental health. I wonder, how do you think people who are viewers, because I guess we could take this from multiple angles, like people who are viewers of reality TV, how do you think it affects their mental health? And how do you think it like impacts their way of being in terms of their mental health?
Well, I think if you struggle to discern what is real and what is actually real, and what is the fact that you're watching a TV show.
Yeah.
I think it also depends on the type of reality TV. Like I can totally see, like, did any of you watch America's Next Top Model like years ago?
Yes.
Oh so like, okay, shows like that.
Yes.
Or like Botched is another one I think of that are very much about like beauty and things like that. That's definitely, or could definitely have an impact on viewers' perceptions of themselves. I even think of like, you know, all the romance shows, you know, oh my gosh, like comparing your love life, things like that. And, you know, then I would argue maybe, I know Justin brought this up in another episode. Oh, our men's mental health episode, Queer Eye. That's reality TV. I feel happy and
do not take that away from
wonderful.
No,
watching that.
I watch Queer Eye all day long on repeat.
And that makes me feel really good. Like, have you all ever seen The Great British Baking Show?
I literally have seen every single episode, every single one.
Like, that is such like a feel good competition show. Everybody's so nice and wholesome.
That's like Oliver, and he likes to watch Is It Cake?
Oh, Is It Cake is so good.
Like he's like,
maybe I do watch reality TV. Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, like, I mean, I was just thinking, I was like, wait, like, I'm thinking now about all the reality shows. And actually, I would probably say the first reality show that I probably watched wasn't even The Real World. It was probably Cops and like Jerry Springer and Maury.
Yes.
Like being,
wow.
Like, school got canceled. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. You're home from school. Your parents aren't around. You're watching Maury after the 8th grade. That's.
Oh my God.
Wait. I'm gonna take your Maury and raise you. What were those Nickelodeon shows that were like the competition? Guts and
the Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
And the ones that they had the people come on with their like inventions, and there was like the brain. You get slimed.
Oh my God. You get slimed. Wait, which one is that? I don't know. You want to know what I think,
too? Is that reality TV? I don't know.
And that's the question that I'm also thinking is competition shows, is that reality TV? Where does that fall on the spectrum?
Say yes.
I'd argue yes.
Like, are there different categories of like, that's too, like, is there different categories of reality TV? So, like,
have y'all seen?
I would put, like, The Bachelor and The Bachelor. Well, see, that's even a competition show. But I would put The Real Housewives in a very different category than I would The Great British Baking Show.
Yeah, why though? Like, what would be the...
It's just, to me, competition is different than, like, this... It's not natural. I understand it's not. But, like, this more natural kind of...
chemistry situation going on.
So, according to Oxford Dictionary... reality TV is television programs in which real people are continuously filmed, designed to be entertaining rather than informative. So I'd argue competition shows fall under that.
I even think, like, have you either of you seen The Physical 100?
Nope.
Mm-mm. You have to watch it. So it's basically, long story short for our listeners, I don't want to bore you, but it's basically a competition for who has the best body. But it's a Korean, I'm pretty sure, I hope I'm speaking this correctly. I think it's filmed in Korea, and it's a competition show. And they do all these different competitions about like running and cycling and moving these bricks and like all this crazy stuff. And there's 100 of them. And every single person gets like eliminated at, like towards the end. But the way in which they compete is so different than Americans. It's like the cultural differences are so different. So I see it as a reality TV show, but the competition is like very friendly, very like, I want to compete against somebody who's a really good competitor. Like, they're not choosing weaker people to compete against. Like, they're very, very like, I don't know, kind to each other, and they're genuinely happy for each other if they win, you know, if they don't win and stuff like that. So I was just like watching that, and I was like, I wonder, in different parts of the world, reality TV probably also looks so different, you know, depending on where it's filmed.
Absolutely.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I also think there's like, going back to your question, K10, about like how it impacts mental health. You and I shared, like, while we're watching it, like, feelings of anxiety.
Yeah.
KBI, I'm going to make an assumption about you so you can call me out and tell me I'm wrong. I can imagine you watching reality TV and getting angry at people for doing stupid stuff on
Why
the
did you
TV.
think that?
And then falling asleep right afterwards.
Jess, why would you think that about me?
I've known you for like 3 years now, and it's just, you can tell me if I'm wrong. But
I've never seen Kristen
not
angry.
Even a little. Not even a little. I absolutely get angry, and it's more, I think I get angry over, like you said, people doing stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like doing the stupid shit, and like, I will say I get more secondhand embarrassment. I don't get anxiety. I get secondhand embarrassment where I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't feel secondhand. I feel like I know everybody has the capability to feel that. I like sometimes like really can't access that. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I think maybe I'm calling it anxiety, but maybe it's that. I don't know. But then I think like, I don't know, I get too wrapped into it because I'm like, okay, that happened for them. I wonder how they're going to process that. And I wonder if they're going to feel okay. Like, do they have to go to therapy? Are they telling their therapist about this? How does their spouse? Like,
there's also
go too deep. I go too deep, and then I can't enjoy the moment. And then I'm trying to talk to the person next to me, like, and they're like, shut up. Like, we just want to watch the TV show.
I will say, like, again, being a therapist has ruined a lot of those things for me, especially reality TV, because like you said, like, I'm watching something happen. Like, even on Love is Blind in Nick's season, like, I'm watching that season happen, and I'm like, are they okay?
Yeah.
I hope they're getting support. Oh my God, get that camera out of her face. She's like
have they ate? Are they sleeping? Like sleeping in the same house. The reality TV shows where they all sleep in the same house. I cannot.
Or the same room.
The same. I can't even sleep in the same. I can't even have a sleepover anymore. You guys know. I can't, I have to go to sleep at a certain time. I need a noisemaker.
She's the worst in bed.
I'm like, everybody shut the fuck up. Like, I need to sleep.
Did you just hear what came out of your mouth, KBI?
Yes.
What'd you say?
You're the worst in bed.
I suck. We've slept in the same bed before.
Yes,
and I'm like, plugging my ears. Like,
You are a damn terrible co-sleeper.
It sucks.
I am worse. Absolutely.
See, I actually like you as a co-sleeper because you don't like physical affection. So I'm like, I know that there won't be any
K10's trying to scoot to me and I'm kicking her out of bed.
Yeah, you're kicking me.
It's 7:30 at night. She's like, turn off that blue light.
Yeah, I'm like, why is it so loud?
It's 11 o'clock. I have the blanket up over. I'm scrolling. She's like, I can see your light. Shut up.
Turn it off. Yeah.
Close your eyes and you won't be able to see it.
But here's the thing. I think when everybody's in the same house, I think that's kind of where, to everybody's point, I think that's where the reality comes up is within the conflict or within the things that people feel that's secondhand embarrassment from. And then they're it keeps them hooked, I mean.
And what's your ability in those situations to escape?
Oh yeah. None.
You have no space. The hot tub, there's people there.
So for example, I'm thinking Jersey Shore, people can walk out and go somewhere, but some of these other places like Big Brother or in Love is Blind, when they're in the pods, you don't see what that looks like.
Yeah.
So what does it look like leaving that space?
I don't know.
It doesn't.
That's a good question to ask.
Exactly. I think it must feel weird to be on a reality TV show and know the background of it and the inner workings and the actual reality of it. And then to watch the show and you're like, wait,
that's, yeah.
They're not filming all the bullshit that happened or that other person having a breakdown or the fact that whatever,
Yeah. Well, half the time, half that stuff doesn't air. You watch the start of it all, right? Mm-hmm. And half those people get only 5 seconds of airtime and then they're kind of cut out from the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Because they're not the ones making the clicks, the views.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The only other thing I wanted to add when talking about kind of viewers' mental health, we talked about the short term watching it, but then just long term. Because I know I definitely said this in the past, when I watched Teen Mom or other shows, I would be like, oh, I watch it because it makes, me feel better about where I am, which is so privileged and rude. And I recognize that. Or just I'll say oh, this is my comfort show. But then I'm that can't have great mental health benefits. Cause I'm even thinking of maybe not, body comparison, status comparison, but even just the need of being invested in these people's lives, for a long time. And I know I'm talking about Teen Mom a lot because that was my show. I was following them all on social media. I was doing that. And then we get into parasocial relationships.
That's what I was just thinking. Reality TV creates something very different in parasocial relationships because these are people who are, whether they're playing themselves, being themselves, whatever, they are themselves. So we're going to talk to Nick. Nick was still Nick in in the show. Nick wasn't playing Tony.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's, I think sometimes that makes it very different than watching something like Modern Family, where it's very much acting.
Yeah. And you have that, I'm assuming for actors and actresses, you have that guise of that character, so you could kind of compartmentalize in a way. When it's reality TV, I'd imagine it's hard to compartmentalize because it's you, you're saying, it's you on there,
Even if you are trying to put a persona out there or a different persona than whatever, it's still you, it's still your name.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It probably feels vulnerable in a way. Yeah.
So another question I wanted to pose to you all, we're all mental health professionals here. if somebody is like, okay, I love reality TV, but I am noticing like, oh, it's making me feel worse about myself or things like that. You know what? Like, I don't know if a client came in and was like, I've been binge watching all of these like Bachelor, Bachelorette, and now I feel awful about my love life. Like, do you have any suggestions of like what people should do, or what have you all done? Like, if you're like, this is draining me and not good for my mental health.
Turn it off. It really is simple.
Yeah. It's
also,
hard though.
Like, it is hard. It is,
yeah.
but it's also taking inventory of what it is, like what is causing you to feel that way. So are you struggling to watch The Bachelor because you're watching one dude pull 32 chicks and you're feeling alone? Well, A, how many people out there, one dude pulling 32 chicks at the same time? And I've always even said, like, I don't even want to pull one person. That seems like a lot of work, let alone like trying to like, quote unquote, date 32 people.
No, thank
And
you.
everybody has different relationship goals too, you know?
Exactly.
So it's like, that might work for somebody it might work, but I think I'm with you, Kristen. I think it really is assessing like, what do you want for your life? You know, it might look good, you know, on TV, and it might feel good to watch, but living it might be a different experience. So I always tell my clients, like, living that and living your life obviously are two different things. And I'll just take personal experience. I had to stop watching crime documentaries. Like, you guys both know, I was so obsessed. Like, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. The Jeffrey Dahmer one sent me over the edge, and I'm like, wait, they might be capitalizing on the victim's experiences. I don't even want to involve myself. Like, everybody has a different reason for not watching it or watching it. But I noticed that it was probably a week later when I stopped watching crime documentaries. I had no anxiety at night. I was falling asleep so much easier. I was like, oh my God, my life is so much better. And then I had to assess, like, why am I watching this? Why? And I think, to Jess's point, I was trying to almost like compartmentalize maybe my own trauma or my own experiences to let me know that, like, okay, maybe it wasn't so bad or something, but it was actually making me feel worse in both areas. Like, I'm like telling my therapist, and she's like, you have trauma. Stop invalidating yourself. I'm like, well, look at all these other people who like deal with all this other stuff. It was so bad. So I think compartmentalizing is helpful and turning it off. Yeah. Jess, what about you?
No, I was going to say something that you just touched on, of like asking yourself, like, why am I actually watching this? Or even like going back to the parasocial relationships, like, you know, I used to follow a bunch of like people from reality TV shows and things like that. And like, I was like, why? Like, I'm not even invested in their life. And even if I was, why am I invested? But yeah, taking inventory of like, why am I watching this? Or even like, am I watching this because it's a popular thing on social media and I feel like I have to? That's why I watched Love is Blind
kind of
season 1.
Like FOMO, like fear of missing out.
Totally.
Yeah, and I have never watched a full season of The Bachelor or Bachelorette. I tried. Yeah, no. And like, because people talk about it all the time, and I'm like,
secondhand embarrassment.
I don't care. But I think taking that inventory, that fear of missing out. I'm so glad you brought that up, KBI, because I think especially with social media, if people are talking about, I mean, Tiger King, did you all watch that at the beginning of the pandemic?
It was the best.
So I mean, I guess that's reality TV, but like everybody was talking about it. So it's like, I got to check out what this thing is. So then there's that pressure, which is also another layer to mental health, like the fear of missing out. And, you know, am I just watching this because society is telling me I should be?
Yeah.
I'm just picturing Jess at 18 years old following Kifa on Instagram.
Not follow Kifa. I just followed like the moms. Kale Lowry did tweet me one time.
Those kids have to be what? They have to be.
They're like 16 now. For the original ones, they're like 16.
Oh God, they're old.
Wow.
Because it came out like my senior year of high school, I think. Yeah.
Teen Mom. I think the first reality TV show that I watched was MTV Cribs.
That
was like my favorite.
What was the bus
What was the one on the bus?
Ooh, what was that?
What was it? Jess, Google it.
It was
like Room Raiders. It was Room Raiders.
No,
Raiders.
I was talking about Next.
Oh, yeah.
you watch
It was Room Raiders.
It was like, I'm Sandra. I'm from Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I like pink cowboy boots. Do you even know what we're
Next
talking
was
about?
like quick
It was
dates
always-
in person,
it was the
right?
quick dating, and they would walk off the bus, and then the person would be like, next. Or if they could like
you
go.
imagine how embarrassed? Oh. But I'm thinking of Room Raiders where they all sat in cars and one person would go into and explore
Another
people's
person's
rooms
So
without them. And they
crazy.
had to make the decision based off of their rooms.
That is so vulnerable.
Like the original reality TV, guys.
Oh my God.
Well, and then I think, and obviously we'll get way more insights from Nick.
Yeah.
When he's on and talking about the perspective of somebody that's been on reality TV. But I think about like, okay, the OG reality TV, like, you know, all those MTV shows that we're talking about, where are those people now? And like, is like Sandra from Tennessee that likes pink cowboy boots now a 40-year-old woman who like did this MTV show when she was 21? And like, I don't know.
You can't redact it. You're just, you're out there. Yeah. You're just out there.
Well, and that's another thing for like the people on it, like it's out there.
Yeah.
Like, and even if you like look back and you're like, oh my gosh.
Can you imagine making a TikTok and it just didn't age well, but you couldn't remove it? Like, and it was just out there, like but 20 years later, you're looking and you're like, oh, it's still up. Like, it's just like, what? I can't imagine.
From 3 years ago. And I'm like, what did I do?
Me too. Yeah. Yeah, me too.
This is making me think of Flavor of Love. And there were people who went on that dating show. And what was the Poison with the lead singer Poison?
Oh,
Rock of Love. And I'm like,
Rock
there
of
were
Love?
people who went on that reality show.
Can you imagine though, you get hit up and you're like,
shot of tequila, shot of love.
Tequila. Yes. She's a whole other conversation. But it came out, I guess it came out like with that show, like that was all for show.
really?
Yeah. Like I feel, I don't want to speak too much on it because like my brain is not 100, but like she like came out in the last couple of years and was basically like this entire show was fake.
Oh, tequila?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like
it was, yeah.
So it's just like again, like I just thought of like, oh, I just kicked my table. Woo!
I even think like generationally, right? Like now it's like you sign an NDA, you're like, you can't speak about stuff. Like you have to like keep it under wraps. Like there's, impression management, you know what I mean? Yeah. Back then, I wonder how the reality TV industry was different, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure it was way different. Well, because if you even think like, if we're talking about like MTV reality shows that we watched in middle and high school, social media was not a thing. Like Facebook, I think came out in 2006 or something.
Yeah.
Like, so
wow.
Well, think about it. Like I think she was on season 1 of Love is Blind. Shayna became a meme. Mm-hmm. She's still a meme. I think her name is Shayna. She was like the villain of season 1. But like she became a whole meme.
That's so wild.
Facebook. I mean, there were
even memes of Nick that I saw.
Yeah.
That like now it's like, it's not even like, oh, in 2001, it's the real world. Here are some things. And not that there probably aren't memes circulating somewhere about that, but like, it's so much more intense now.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Crazy.
Well, and with streaming shows, like you have a reality show on Netflix, you binge the whole season in a day. And we could probably do a whole nother episode on like binge watching television and mental health. But like, so things come out a lot quicker and like, I mean, there are so many aspects for viewers, for contestants.
There's so much
short-term, long-term impact.
I even wonder, like, are there, like, there are clearly positives to reality TV. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to like, oh, I have a similar interest, or I genuinely care about the contestants, or I care about, or contestants, whatever the hell they're called, whatever people on there. And then I think too, like it might impact mental health potentially in a helpful way. Cause I think sometimes people tend to feel like that isolation of like, oh, I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to make friends, you know, or something like that. And reality TV could give you ideas, you know, on what to do, how to get outside. And then if you're watching like a day in the life of someone, it might not apply to you, but it might give you some ideas of like, oh, maybe I could go for a walk during this time or something like that. So I do like to think about those things too.
Oh yeah, definitely the benefits. Or I mean, going back to things like Great British Baking Show, or even like the House Hunter shows like that. Like you could be inspired for some like creative outlets of things like that.
They're all like butterfly catchers though, that have like no income. Like how do they afford the houses?
I know, it's like, I'm a butterfly catcher, and
It's like I'm a first grade teacher at a public school, and I'm a licensed social worker in community mental health. Our house is $1.5 million. And I'm like, why are your parents loaded and giving you a massive down payment?
Like, yeah.
Like,
oh, absolutely. I don't have a good transition. I'm sorry.
You know what's always loaded?
Ooh.
The Google Scholar shorts. I love it. I
like
it.
that.
So as I have told both of y'all, there's like not research on reality TV and mental health, but I did find an interesting article from 2019. So it's not super new. Sorry.
Jess,
kind of shifting gears, going towards, our guest Nick coming on talking about reality TV contestants' mental health. So the question I'm going to pose to you all, how do you think hate comments impact the mental health of reality TV contestants, and what coping strategies do you think they implement to manage the hate comments?
Whatever KB I just did, I agree with.
I can't speak on the coping skills at this time, but it's very much like crash and burn.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure they internalize some of it. They have to.
Oh, they have to. Absolutely.
I internalize comments that I get. Like,
I want to ask that. Write that down. I want to ask that to Nick. That's a question I want to ask.
How do hate comments impact you?
Yeah.
So like I said, this article was from 2019. I just have to read part of the title. It's called Bashed at First Sight. Play on words.
That is so clever.
Instead of Love at First Sight. So it was a series of interviews with reality TV contestants. So the sample was pretty small. It was 13. But 100% of participants had experienced online bashing, with most common comments being about physical appearance and personality traits. Comments about personality were deemed more hurtful than comments about physical appearance, resulting in feelings of stress, difficult emotions, and frustration. And with regard to coping, most participants reported not reacting to the hurtful comments as the primary coping strategy, so not responding to them. And then on a cognitive level, most individuals engaged in relativizing, so basically making or treating as relative or dependent on something else, such as telling themselves, well, the individual making these comments don't know who I am. They don't know who I am in real life. Thus, they shouldn't judge me. So kind of rationalizing it. And then further, the other coping skill that was frequently discussed was social support. So reaching out to friends and family to manage the hate comments.
Wow. It's so interesting that the comments about personality. Because I wonder, I think sometimes people think like my personality might be something I could control, in terms of like how I'm coming off, whereas your physical appearance, I mean, you can only do so much. There's only so much makeup you can put on, I wonder about that.
I wondered if part of that was kind of what we already alluded to before with how, there's always a villain, or like they clip together certain segments to make a person look a certain way. So I wonder if part of the reason it was more hurtful is like, because it's based on this 30-second segment you saw me in, which you're missing the 2 hours of context around that, and people drawing conclusions.
That's so crazy. You want to know?
There needs to be more research.
There does.
Oh my gosh, y'all. I spent so much time trying to find recent research. It was like, but yeah, I'm sure there will be as reality TV becomes more popular.
Well, and as more reality stars speak up.
Mm-hmm.
That's key. I hope they feel the courage to speak up. I would imagine it being really hard,
No, it's not hard.
The polls. Thanks, Jess.
No problem. I tried.
Okay, the polls this week. I'm so excited. So as you guys know, Nick is coming on. So he's going to answer a lot of your group member questions, which we're super excited about. But we wanted to do some polls beforehand to just get a taste of what you guys think of reality TV and mental health. So the first question was, do you watch reality TV? Yes, no, and sometimes. What do you think was the highest?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah.
It was really close. So yes was at 38, sometimes was at 32, and no was at 30.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah,
I think
I was shocked
sometimes,
by that.
I mean, the yes and the sometimes are basically the same thing.
I wonder though if kind of like how we all externally processed what is reality TV, if the people that said no were like solely thinking of like Bachelor, Bachelorette.
Oh yeah.
Like
do they
now
know how
that
to
we
capture
said,
it?
You know, the Great British Baking Show and things like that, if people would change their answer. I don't know. Interesting.
So interesting. How do you think reality TV affects your mental health? Mostly positive, mostly negative, neutral, or haven't thought about it?
Probably, I would say neutral.
Oh, I was going to say negative or haven't thought about it.
Neutral, 38%, mostly negative, 32%.
Okay.
Haven't thought about it, 26%, and mostly positive is only 4%.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Only 4%.
I mean, that makes sense.
How does reality TV affect your self-esteem? Mostly positive, mostly negative, neutral, or haven't thought about it?
Negative probably was bigger.
Yeah, 46%. I was like, yo. That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense though, because I guess people do a lot of comparisons. How do you think reality TV affects contestants' mental health? Mostly positive, mostly negative, neutral, or haven't thought about it?
In the toilet, negative.
Literally
so bad.
91% said mostly negative. 91%.
Oh
my
so it's
gosh.
like, I'm picturing this like they're all on reality TV show, just doing their thing. And all of us know it's affecting them negatively and we're still watching it. It's so crazy. Yeah, it's so crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Blank in 10 people watch some form of reality TV. 4 in 10, 1 in 10, or 8 in 10.
4 in 10.
4. That's
4 in 10 was
is?
at 49%. Yeah.
Was that the answer though?
Do you remember?
Fuck. What was the answer? Hold on, let me Google it really quick.
Guys, that's the most requested one. And then I'm like, well, what's the fucking answer?
Hold on.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty sure it's 8.
You're just going to speed
Oh,
past
is it
that.
8?
Like, but again, like when we think about it though, like when we think about what we kind of discerned what was thing, it could make sense that it was 8.
Okay, 8. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Katie's looking back in her freaking search history.
Fuck. I was like, goddamn. Now I lost the poll. Give me a second. Justin, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Okay, K10, did you listen to our last episode? That was 3 of us. Justin edited out nothing.
He doesn't care. He doesn't have our back at all.
No.
Like
My favorite was when KB, I was like, wait, are we back online? Are we here? Are we here? Like just towards the end. It's like,
there's no more polls actually. That was it.
Okay. Well, we need to get ourselves together and presentable.
Okay, group members, I want us to give a warm welcome to Nick Thompson. You may know him from season 2 of the Netflix reality show Love is Blind, but he is so much more than that. Nick believes everyone has a story to tell. He is passionate about building connection to remove the stigma from mental health. He has a podcast called Eyes Wide Open where he talks about societal issues in an honest and authentic way. He is one of the founding members of the UCAN Foundation that is dedicated to ensuring that all reality TV cast members are given proper mental health and legal services before, during, and after filming. He's also written a self-care guided journal titled Rebuilding You, 8 Weeks to Reconnect with Yourself. So clearly, you're not busy at all. We are so appreciative that you were open to joining us this week in group, and we are so thankful to have you.
Well, thank you for having me on. And I don't know how I am busy, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know what I do all day.
It like gets to the end of the day and you're like, what did I accomplish?
How did all that time pass by?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like I spent almost the whole day yesterday making merch and launching our merch store for the UCAN Foundation.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm just like,
awesome.
okay, 6 hours to do that. Like,
Where did it go?
Right.
Awesome.
But yeah, we have so many questions from our group members. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're just going to dive right in if that's okay with you.
Let's go.
Okay, so I wanted to start with this one. So Liz from Kentucky has 2 questions for you. She first asks, how are you doing mentally and emotionally lately, if you're comfortable sharing? And what do you find most helpful to supporting your own mental health?
These are good questions. I'm doing okay. I'm keeping myself pretty busy with the UCAN Foundation, with honestly, like I'm still getting quite a bit of interviews about it, because it is pretty revolutionary in the reality TV space to have a group of people that are actually trying to organize and change the way that these shows are produced. But there's a lot of tough things going on in my life too. Like I've been unemployed for a while. And I'm in tech marketing at the director VP level, and it's super competitive. So I try to spend a couple hours a day, like finding job opportunities or consulting opportunities, because I also do some marketing consulting. I spend a lot of time on that, and that can be pretty defeating, as anyone who's ever had to look for work knows. That is, very difficult when it doesn't go your way. But overall, I'm doing okay. I'm getting through my days, which leads me to the second part. I thrive with a little bit of structure. So I was diagnosed with depression at 21 or 22 years old. And so I spent a lot of time in therapy, but before that, like meandering throughout my life. But when, I learned there that structure and boundaries are like super important to me and my mental wellness. So make sure I spend lots of time walking. I task myself to get 15,000 steps a day, no matter what, unless there's a special occasion on like a weekend where I'll give myself a little grace on those days to aim for, like 8,000 steps. But, walking my dog, spending time outside, especially now in Chicago, it's beautiful outside, albeit a little humid sometimes. So just a lot of structure, exercise, even if I don't want to go, I force myself to go, journaling, which I haven't done so well in the last couple of weeks, which is funny because I get a lot of people that'll DM me and say, oh, I slipped up on my journaling. I'm like, hey, me too. Like it's great in theory, but it doesn't always work that way. So yeah, just that, spending time with my friends and doing things that matter to me and being outside, super helpful.
I love all those things. So you mentioned the UCAN Foundation, and we want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that. But Melanie from New York asked, what are your biggest accomplishments so far with your new foundation?
Oh, wow. Great question. So I think we have a number of accomplishments, and, it's funny because we'll get together as a board, which currently as we're actually about to grow the board, but Jeremy and Isabel's our licensed clinical psychologist on the board. Jeremy's the other co-founder. He was on season 2 of Love is Blind with me. We get together sometimes. We're like, man, we feel like we're not accomplishing things. And we just get together and be like, okay, look at this list of things we've accomplished. So one, we have 250 plus mental health professionals that have joined our network to be matched up with reality cast members of the future, the current and the present. We've already been pairing. I don't have the exact number. We've paired multiple cast members with therapists that are licensed to practice in their state, which is really cool to hear. We've also partnered at least 3 that I know of with our attorney network, which isn't quite as robust as the mental health, but we still have, I think it's over 20. I think we got over 20 legal professionals that are either volunteering their time or offering, pretty nicely discounted rates for the foundation, and then for the cast members that need it. And that's great. We just launched our merch store today. I don't know when this is coming out, but we just launched our merch store today, which 100% of those proceeds go right into the foundation. It's a nice mix of funny reality TV tropes and some, simple, just I support the UCAN Foundation. And then there's a lot of organizing going on behind the scenes, which I think is going to scare the shit out of, can I swear?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Oh, yes.
You are more than welcome to. I've already made it explicit like 5 minutes in, so we're good.
I curse every episode. It's fine. No worries.
I try so hard not to, but I grew up, my mom, every 2 words is the F word. So.
My parents too. And I'm like, how was I ever supposed to learn anything different?
Right. And I remember like, she was so hard on me. Like I called a kid a butthead at like, when I was like 5 or 6 years old outside at playing in the yard. And I got my mouth washed out with Dawn dish soap.
I feel like that's a rite of passage at this point.
It is. If you grow up in the 80s or 90s, you probably have tasted Dawn or Palmolive.
So true.
Yeah. So we've got a lot going on behind the scenes that I think is really going to shake up the industry, and it's going to shake it up pretty quickly. I can't really get into some of that because when you're organizing, you want to be cognizant of who you tell and, keeping things quiet before you make big moves. But so I think there's so much going on there. And then ultimately, I just think we have some really good things that we've been able to help people with. I know I've talked to probably 40 reality cast members that reached out to say that they support the foundation. Most of them are too scared to speak because of the NDAs, but just the fact that I've gotten support and, quiet support from reality stars that pretty much everyone would know. And then some that maybe not everyone would know. And then I give everyone a platform to come on my podcast to discuss their experience if they are comfortable. But, before doing that, I want to make sure that they are comfortable, because you don't want to, make someone feel pressured to come talk about their experience when they're still struggling with the ramifications or struggling with the trauma that comes with it. And then lastly, I'm also really proud of the outreach of volunteers that we've gotten outside of the mental health and the legal perspective. We have a wonderful young woman who we met in a bachelor class at DePaul University here, which studies the cultural impacts of the bachelor nation on our, it's crazy.
What?
So, yeah, the societal impacts and cultural impacts. Right. Right. And so she reached out to Jeremy and I, and was like, hey, would you guys come in and talk about your foundation and the reality of reality TV with the cast? So we did that. We got some volunteers out of there. Someone is doing a great job with our social media now, because before it was me doing it, which would be the third social media Instagram account that I was managing between myself, my dog, and foundation. So just the number of volunteers we have people from the nonprofit sector that have reached out and offer us like free consulting hours. It's just been great. They've really helped us sort of start to operationalize and, turn the tide so that we're actually moving in the right direction. And hopefully soon we're going to be getting some of our government classifications of 501c3, which means we can start accepting larger donations, because we do have a number of larger organizations that are willing to financially support us when we get that.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Definitely a lot to be proud of.
Yes.
It is. It'll be... I'm results driven. So like when I start seeing the change, that's when I'm going to be like, okay.
Yeah. Awesome. So Carrie,
actually one more really quick one.
Yeah.
A personal accomplishment was when Nick Vile decided to pretty much talk shit about the foundation and me personally and Jeremy personally. And it gave a whole lot of eyes and an influx of donations to the organization. So I remember we talked beforehand. I was like, he's the N-level boss. And when we get on his podcast to talk about this and we convince him that this needs to happen for the industry, that'll be like a huge milestone for us. And then day 3, he just comes and starts at it and gives us the platform ahead of time. So that was a big accomplishment too, even though we didn't even try.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So Carrie from California asked, what did the mental health support look like on set? Did they have a therapist there for you to talk to at all?
No, despite what they claim, which is we have rigorous protocols in place to take care of reality contestants before, during, and after. That's not the case, at least with Love is Blind. Now, that being said, they claimed there were 2 that were going to be there ahead of time. And one of the because I'm not naive. Like I know how reality TV works, and I only agreed to even continue the casting process after they recruited me off of LinkedIn, because I watched season 1 and I was like, oh, this is different. This isn't, The Bachelor. This isn't Bachelor in Paradise. This isn't, some of these other dating shows that I thought were just kind of not really my style. So that, and then they did psychological examinations, pretty thorough. You did like a 300 question quiz, and then had an hour-long interview with a psychologist. And then that psychologist actually did a 20-30 minute call with my therapist, my personal therapist, so that she could vet it out and be like, how serious are they taking this? Because, we didn't want me to go in and then like get set back after, being in a really good place beforehand. So they claim it. If they never showed their faces. Danielle had a panic attack in Mexico, and you may have heard me say this before, but that probably would have been the optimal time that a therapist or mental health professional they claim to have shows up. But instead we got every producer on the cast and basically forced to keep filming.
Yeah.
Well, and I know me and you have talked about that, and like in messages, and the twist of that, and how that was one of the reasons why I stopped watching, was all the information that came out after, because it was very much twisted to make it look like it was something different than what it was, and to then not have that support on top of then coming out of it and then finding out, oh, wow, they twisted that. I can't imagine going through that.
The craziest thing is they don't support you, and they say in the contract. So it says we can defame you, we can misrepresent you, we can, basically edit scenes out of order. We can edit, frankenbiting, which is basically when they take something you said in one scene and put it in another. And, like show your back or something. And then you'll be saying something, but you actually said that 3 days earlier to somebody different. And when you watch it back, that's when you feel like you're getting gaslit. Because I remember like Danielle didn't want to watch it. We watched the first episode, and then she was like, I'm done. And I had to watch the rest of it. And when I watch back, there are just scenes where I'm like, I don't think that happened that way. And there was one I actually just recently had to watch my scenes again for another video project that I'm working on. And I watched back the scene. I'm like, there's a scene in the pods where I say something to someone, and I definitely never said that to her, because that would have been totally out of context of the things we talked about. And they were just doing it to make her look crazy. Wow. And it's just crazy when you watch it back, because you do feel like you're getting gaslit in a sense, and things happen out of order, and context is left out. There's a scene that we had to do that is completely manufactured. I mean, it's the whole thing's manufactured, right? You're told where you're going to go, what you're going to do, and what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I had told them from watching the first season to the second season, the changes in the glasses that they used. In the first season, they used clear glasses. In the second season, all the glasses were not see-through, because people saw the cuts that were happening based off of that.
Yeah. And that's why they do that. And now they've turned it into a branding opportunity too. So like you have the most damaging reality show, I think, imaginable, with The Ultimatum, is using the same ones, but they're silver. And it's just another outlet for them to manipulate and misrepresent people. And it's at the end of the day, that's defamation. You can't have someone look like you're basically saying someone looked and did something, said something, whatever, and they have no recourse legally, according to the contract, to go against the narrative that you're telling. But then we're calling this reality TV. It's not a documentary crew following you around your everyday life or following you around in the pods. These are well orchestrated and predetermined scenes that you're going into.
Everything you said just really led well into Elaine's question. So Elaine from Pennsylvania says, for viewers, reality TV can provide an escape from reality, but it is harmful to participants. How can the reality TV world balance this, protecting their participants while providing escapist entertainment?
So I want to be clear, and I should always preface it with this, and I don't, I don't remember to, but I'm not saying let's abolish reality TV. What I'm saying, what I'm fighting for, what the UCAN Foundation stands for, is let's produce it ethically. And there are ways we can do that without damaging people and without taking away the entertainment factor of it. And, one of a couple things that I would like to see happen is, one, I think because of the extenuating circumstances, and, we were filming 18, 20 hours a day, and then the other 7 hours a day, we were told we had to be in our hotel room and we couldn't leave. And not just told, like they had our ID, they had our wallets, they had our hotel room keys, and they told us, like, you're not allowed to leave. And so if you would leave, you would have to get permission and escorted to, like, go to the gym for 30 minutes or go out to the pool for 30 minutes on the days when you weren't filming, which, by the way, there's like a buffer where you get there and then you don't film for 2 days and you're like locked in your hotel room and you can't leave. You can't order food. You can't order drinks. You don't have a phone. You don't have your internet.
So isolating.
We had YouTube on our TV a couple days. They killed that. It was, so you're like isolated in this tiny hotel room by yourself. I think I did like 300 push-ups a day because it was like, okay, well, I guess it's push-up time. It's been 2 hours. So it's like,
get some energy out. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And as you probably picked up from earlier, I'm an active person. Like I move a lot. And I was trapped, and I didn't really reflect on the impact that had until later, but isolation. Like I understand on a show like Love is Blind, you can't have your phone because you could very easily go to social media and find out who you're talking to. Right. It's the fact that, like, you took away wallets. You didn't give people any freedom to get outside as they saw fit, to eat as they saw fit, work out as they saw fit. There was one day I had to wait like 6 hours to work out because there was a line of the guys. And it was just like, so there's just stuff like that. And then on top of it, somehow reality TV has gone unregulated from a labor perspective. Excuse me. The fact that it's legal to work someone 18 to 20 hours a day filming, and then the only time you really get a break when you're still mic'd, you're just not being filmed, is when they're swapping out the union crews. So the union crews, they get to leave after 12 hours, but then they have to bring in another crew set so that they can keep filming you. So I think that, classifying reality cast members as workers, getting those basic labor protections that you get. And again, people think, oh, well, you're not working. Yes, you are. You are making somebody else money, and someone else is profiting off of your labor, off of what you're doing. And they are in complete control of your life, especially in this case in the pods, for 24 hours a day for 3 weeks. So we need basic labor protections. And then because of the extenuating circumstances and the time, like, we need outside mental health support. And it can't be someone that is employed by the production company or contracted by the production company, because I've talked to people on other shows that they have that, but then they're like, yeah, but they were just feeding it to the producers, which is its whole own ethics fiasco that we are actually working with the APA now to address. And and so that there's a lot going on from that perspective. So I think of it like the NFL, where I don't know if you guys watch the NFL listening or if any of you do, but recently in the last couple of years, they have an independent neurologist that comes in and has to clear someone who they suspect has a concussion. And so from my perspective, we need that. So if someone has a panic attack, because I think 70% of the people I've talked to from these shows have had panic attacks on set.
Yeah,
and, I just had Alyssa Barmundi from Married at First Sight in Australia on my podcast. And she said every time that they show her storming off, she's actually having a panic attack and like going to regulate herself. Oh. And they just filmed it and then made it look like she was storming off in a temper tantrum.
So exploitative.
It's so exploitative. So I think like an outside mental health expert could come in and say, this person cannot film today. We'll readdress and reassess tomorrow. Or this couple's, in conflict, like let's bring a couples therapist or a couples therapist, a couples therapist in there and have them help them build healthy habits instead of toxic habits when they're under this stressful condition in front of the whole world. So there are ways to ethically produce this, and people are dramatic. So it's not like we would lose the drama. It would just be more authentic drama and less manufactured drama. And I think just a few changes like that around the edges, labor laws, true independent mental health support, and then, maybe some sort of like code of ethics for producers to make sure that these shows are still entertaining, but we can enjoy the entertainment without feeling yucky inside.
Yeah. And even one of the things you're saying, I'm like, you didn't even have access to your own therapist, the person that you have a connection with that could have supported you through this.
Well, and the funny thing is they do say, if you want to call or talk to your therapist, you can arrange that with your producer. When I was in the pods, which was 2 weeks, and then Mexico, where we went to for our, honeymoon or couples, whatever, I didn't think about it. Like it never really crossed my mind because I didn't think she could help me in any of those moments, particularly. But when I got back, it was like twice a week for the next 4 weeks while we were filming.
Yeah.
So the next question comes from James from Columbus, Ohio. Justin's not here to shout. Oh, yeah. OHIO. But he asks,
OHIO.
What was your biggest takeaway from being on the show?
Good question, James. I would say that's probably in reality to be determined. It takes a very mental toll on you. And I think that at someday I'm going to look back on this and realize that this made me the strongest person I could ever possibly be. But right now, or at least that's my hope, right now, I think the biggest takeaway I got out of it was that, and this isn't a diss on anyone, I don't want it to be taken that way, but I did so much work to make sure that my circle was the right people, my job was the right job, I had the right relationships with my family, and that I was comfortable with myself. And all of that got sort of a nuke dropped in the middle of it once the show came out. Actually, once the show finished filming, but then especially when it came out. And I'm suddenly on the red carpet with people that like Oliver Hudson recognizing me and having a conversation. Super nice guy, by the way. Jason Aldean and Brittany Aldean, and just being on the red carpet and then being around the cast. And then, we all kind of like trauma bonded in a sense and hung out a lot. I actually never really did that much, but a lot of them did. And then I would sometimes, but just being in that environment with people that like, and again, not everybody's for everyone, so this has nothing to do with them, but people that aren't my people, that are my circle, that are my comfort and safe spaces, that was really hard for me. And I always say it wasn't until I came back to my reality that I felt like I could be myself again. Mm-hmm. Not that I ever feel like I lost myself, because I didn't, but I felt a lot of discomfort in some of these situations that I was in that I didn't really think I would have ever put myself in. And to make it, maybe give a little bit of tea, I think back to when we were flying out to the reunion, which when you do the reunion, you film the reunion a week before it comes out, and you haven't seen the full series until that day, when they give you like an encrypted iPad and they're like, here, watch the last episode. So you had only seen what had aired live so far. You don't see it ahead of time. And so when we were getting ready to book, so Danielle and I, all the couples, we all had to fly separately. They flew you out in different planes in groups of 3. And they're like, is there anyone you don't want to fly out with? And I said, Shake. And I'm like, I'm fine with everyone else. Like, he drives me crazy, and he's not the kind of person that I want to be around. And he knew this, and he was always asking me to be friends and stuff. And I'm like, I'm just not friends with people like you. Mm-hmm. But, what happened then? Guess who I was flying out there with?
Shake.
Yes.
Obviously.
So that's the perfect example.
Talk about the gaslighting.
Right. And the situations that they put you in. But what I realized, and I actually had a whole therapy session about this, where I was like, why does he live rent free in my head? And it's because when I engage in real life with someone who has, narcissistic traits and has these, verbal whatever that he has that he says, and he's just not kind to people, he doesn't think of other people's feelings at all, I would distance myself and that would be it. But I was forced to constantly be around someone that I wouldn't normally be around. And I don't have any beef with him, to each their own, but it's just, those are the situations where it's if you, in real life, you don't like someone, you make sure you're not around them. But in these situations, you're kind of forced to be.
You can't. Yeah. So Bethany from New York says, I follow you on Instagram and see all the ways you're advocating after being on the show because of what you didn't have. If you could go back in time, would you still do it? And what would you have done differently?
So
we told you we have good questions.
I know.
No pressure, Nick. That was a good question.
I go back and forth on the would I do it again? And for a few reasons. And this is separate of my relationship. I wouldn't give that up. But the whole experience and the toll it had, and the way that it's part of the reason I lost my job. It's part of the reason I have a hard time finding it. People don't take me seriously because I was on a reality show, or they, think you're, just a celebrity and that there's a big bag of money that Netflix drops off every day. That's not the case. So from that perspective, there wasn't really monetary value. And I'm not just going to shill stuff that I don't actually use on social media. So I'm very particular about anything that I promote. And, so when I look back, I'm kind of well, this disrupted pretty much everything in my life that I had worked so hard to accomplish and achieve from a professional standpoint, from a relationships with people in my life standpoint to, now I have, a divorce on the books, all this stuff that you look back and I'm just good Lord, what was I thinking? Why did I think this was a good idea? So if I were to come to the point where I wish I didn't do it, I think it would be doing myself a disservice, because what did come out of it, and I decided at the end of last year, I'm done. I don't want to do any of this stuff. I don't want to be in the public eye. I have a nice, community that follows me now at this point for me. And, I have great conversations with them, in DMs and comments all over social media. And so I'm I'm going to just take that and I'm going to maximize what I can offer them and what, they can offer me. And I'm just done. I'm not going to talk about reality TV anymore. I'm going to pretend like it didn't happen. I'm going to pretend I organically grew this because these people are here because of, me talking about mental health, or me talking about, overall health, or my podcast, or whatever that could be. And then I got dragged back in when Business Insider reached out to interview me for an expose they were doing. And I had told Jeremy I wasn't interested in being on the board of the foundation, that I would endorse it and I would support it. And then after I did the Business Insider interview and it was coming out, and I'm okay, all right, I'm in. Let's do this. And he had done most of the pre-work. I had just... Initially, he had focused more on the legal stuff, and I kind of brought the mental health element in until Isabel came in and sort of took that part out. So I think when I look back on this, and I'm going on and on here, I'm all over the place, but I always thought that if I were to be famous, it would be for my ideas. I was in 8th grade, voted most likely to be famous, and a bunch of my classmates sent me a picture of the yearbook after this came out where it said that. God. But I was going to be famous because I was going to be a pro wrestler president or a film director. So it was all these things that were my ideas, or, these characters that I would play, or that I was going to be president. And it becomes from my relationship and absolutely nothing about me or my ideas. So I think the interesting thing about this is, a couple of weeks ago, someone stopped me on the street and was I love what you're doing with the UCAN Foundation. And I'm that's so nice to hear, instead of I loved you on the show. Yeah. Or I loved your season, or I loved you guys, or whatever it is. And so I think, when I look back, I'm I have regrets. I wish I would have maybe done things different. I don't know what exactly, but I think that maybe this kind of just, bullied me into the path that I'm supposed to be on, so that I can actually make a difference and change people, change their experience in the future on reality TV for the better.
Love that.
And I always think too, like, you should leave someplace better than when you found it. And so if I can leave reality TV just a little bit better, if I were to get hit by a bus, which is possible in Chicago, and the foundation has already started and the people are talking about it and recognizing it, and then someone, other people take the ball across the goal line, totally fine. I'm just glad to have been starting that movement in the right direction for ethical reality TV production.
Haley from Germany has a really interesting question. Does it vary if a show has a negative, neutral, or positive effect on participants as well as people watching based on the type of shows? And then she gave example of like Big Brother, Germany's Next Top Model versus reality TV shows like Queer Eye or The Great British Bake Off.
So is she asking if there's differences?
Do you think there's a difference in how it impacts mental health based on the type of show?
I think it has more to do. So first of all, I've talked to people from all of those shows that you mentioned, except Germany's Next Top Model. Yeah, I do have an episode with someone from America's Next Top Model from 2008 that's coming out next week or the week after on my podcast, which would be towards the end of July. So if we're past that, go back and listen to it. That experience sounds, honestly, I can't believe I'm going to say this. It sounds worse than, what a lot of the stuff I've heard. And then I haven't talked to anyone. What was the other one? Germany's Next Top Model. But I have talked to people that were on Queer Eye. I've talked to people that were on
Big Brother
cooking shows. Talked to people who have been on competition shows, and it's all the same. Competition shows are regulated a little bit more, so they have some guidelines in there, but it's across the board. It's 20-hour work days. It's people being withheld food and water and fed alcohol and told, we're not going to stop filming until you say this way. You can't take that phone call from your daughter until you finish this scene. Like, those are the stories that I'm hearing.
Wow.
Not to mention the amount of people I mentioned earlier who developed panic attacks and had never had them before. There is someone I talked to from season 1 of Love is Blind when I was visiting cast in Atlanta. And she said she had her first panic attack on set. Now she has them regularly is the term I believe she used, but and she was there for a few days. She wasn't even part of the main cast. And so these things are impacting people across the board. And that's just production. Like, that's not even what comes after, right? And what comes after is the public is watching you. They are scrutinizing you. They're being cruel to you. They are projecting all of their insecurities and all of their traumas onto you. They see themselves in you for the good and the bad, and they have no problem saying it from behind a keyboard. So you're just getting it from all directions. And I spoke with someone, and I can't say who, from another show, who did some research and found out that the networks actually have, I don't know if they're really bots, but have people bringing negative comments and writing them on social posts and on Reddit to stir people up and keep people fighting about it to keep it relevant.
Oh my gosh.
So it's so there's people out there that are saying these horrible things. And why do I believe that? Because I know from our season that they monitor social media and Reddit, and they found out what people like the most. And then they take that, they build marketing content out of it. They build memes out of it. They, structured After the Altar, which is 3 episodes post show that you film about a year later. They used it to structure what those episodes were going to be about, all based on what people are talking about. So is it that far-fetched to think they actually have people starting these conversations?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We had talked about, while we were waiting for you, I can't imagine, one, coming off of this show, then watching it and seeing everything distorted. And then I had brought up and then being made into a meme. So there was a person, I think it was season 1, Shayna, who is still a meme to this day.
Oh yeah. Shayna she was my season.
Memes about you. Anxiety memes of sweating. And it was And it's like, I can't imagine coming out of that. And then you're not only dealing with like, what the hell is happening over here, but now I'm managing discourse over here, and I'm doing it by myself.
Oh, they give you media training. Don't worry. And you know what it is? Hey, if someone says something bad, delete and block them. Don't listen to it. People are mean. That was the extent of
That's like the most live, laugh, love thing I've ever heard. Like, oh my God. Just will it away.
That's like,
and then no support. No support. Hey, who can I call when I'm getting blasted online or when I'm a meme? They don't care.
Well, Nick, so we were actually going to ask you some questions, and this got brought up before you hopped on, because I know you've listened to the podcast. I always do it like a research paper, and I found one about hate comments from like how people deal with hate comments that have been on reality TV show. So this is a perfect segue into us asking you, how do hate comments on social media impact you?
So it changed, which is interesting, because when I was first thinking about it, I was like, so, and I know it can be different now, but like I was so myself. I stayed within my value system. I stayed within my character, and that's in everyday life. I've learned like filter things through your value system before you make a judgment. I used to be very reactive. I'm very sarcastic. I'm very dry. So, when the show was coming out, I was like, I'm fine. I don't care what people think of me. I know I'm doing the best I can, and I'm always trying to do the right thing, and I'm a good person. So who cares? And then I remember like maybe a week before the show came out, I'm listening to Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan says, I can't read the comments anymore. They're too mean. And I'm like, oh, if the most popular podcaster in the world, who's a cage fighter, can't read the comments, how the hell am I going to read the comments? And that's when I started to panic a little bit. And that was when I started to panic. And at first, like we had just at my work, we had just acquired, of course, a new company 2 weeks before the show came out. And so I was working 10, 11 hours a day when the show came out. And like in meetings all day, and I wasn't seeing a lot of it, which was a blessing and a curse, because then I wouldn't be able to delete some of the stuff that was insane. But it does get to me sometimes. And when it gets to me most is when I feel like someone's A, projecting, but B, like their comments is going to damage someone else. Yeah. So in full transparency, like a lot of people accuse, and I use air quotes, or let's say question, a lot of people question my sexuality, which whatever, like I've had that my whole life because I'm sensitive. And what that makes me think is, if you're trying to shame someone who's maybe struggling with coming out, right? What is that doing to someone who reads that and is struggling with coming out?
Yeah.
And I think about that. I'm like, what they say to me, I don't freaking care. Yeah. But when someone else reads that and maybe is like, oh, this is how people think about it. Oh, they just want to like out someone. Like that just breaks my heart. That was really like what impacted me, especially at first. And then of course it really impacted, like Danielle got so much hate and heat and just, I mean,
well, we talked about that. She was basically from the get-go labeled as crazy and unstable.
Yeah.
And that was not the case. And like I said, like that's what caused me to stop watching after season 2.
And the funny thing is, like, they brought in a new producer for us once we got together and went to our trip in Mexico. And he hadn't seen any of the footage or knew anything about us or how we connected or why we connected. And he was then just like manufacturing these ridiculous situations. And I think of the scene where, and again, I just recently had to watch this for the video I was doing, the scene where we're in the costumes. Like that conversation is the perfect gaslighting moment, because you watch it and we were talking tongue in cheek. That was Danielle's apartment. It was 90-degree summer day. She has window units. There's 10 crew in there. There's all these cameras going. There's lights going. and it was hot, and I sweat when it's hot, as you know, from my wedding and the memes, that, we're sitting there in this conversation. We're both a little irritable because it's hot, but we're like tongue in cheek having this conversation because it wasn't really ever an issue that her friends were going to like be reckless and break stuff. And so we just had the conversation for them tongue in cheek. And then I get up and I take the costume off when we're done filming, and they add dramatic music to this whole conversation, cut it in a weird way. And then I was taking that off when we were done filming, but they were still filming. And then they added it to the end of the scene with some dramatic music to make it look like I was leaving the conversation mad. And it's just like, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
So like to have these things happen, and then to see like the way they made her look, and they left so many of our like really good moments, they just didn't even bother to show. They would have rather show the conflicts that were being created. So it's hard to take all that. The hardest, I'm going on and on. The hardest part though was the divorce leaking from TMZ. Cause I hadn't told my family yet. I hadn't really told anyone yet. And I woke up one morning on a Sunday and it was just tons of missed calls, emails from family, text messages from friends, calls, emails from the press. Can you comment on this? Like all this stuff. And that was really when things started to get to me for the next few months. Yeah. That and all the speculation and people running with it. And, I had a friend who was in town from England last August, planned for months. We were at brunch with a couple of my friends, like in a group, and someone started a Reddit thread that I was out with some girl, and this is probably the reason the marriage ended. It took fire. And then I got,
oh my gosh.
The next day, I think I had probably 100, 200, maybe even 200. It was so many. I just started mass deleting them. People calling me a cheater, saying I was abusive, saying that, all these things, all from that. And then they started messaging they like found my friend, which is the crazy thing is like you go down to 2017 and I visited her in England, and there's like pictures on my Instagram and videos on my Instagram of us, but people started harassing her over her DMs. And so it's just like calling her a home wrecker and stuff like that. Like
over all this that like didn't even happen. Like it's so crazy to me.
And over information that they don't have.
They have no idea.
Exactly.
I can't.
And it's speculation. Mm-hmm. It's totally speculation.
Yeah.
So that's when it got really hard.
Yeah.
You harden to it. You do harden to it. And there's every now and then someone says something that is kind of like, I don't want to say it stings, but it's just kind of like, oof, like what's going on with you that you felt the need to say that. And so now I've stepped back in my reactions. I do them a little on social media now, and I can be very snarky in the comments, especially if they're insulting the UCAN Foundation or the you signed up for it crowd.
Yeah, we love some snark on a much more.
It's easy on Threads too. It's a lot easier.
Oh, Threads! Oh
my God!
All over Threads.
I have a problem. Just go ahead.
We all have a problem. So, Nick, on a much lighter and more positive note, we're starting to ask this question of all of our guests: muffins or donuts?
Donuts, 100%.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, Team Donuts, Nick. I'm so excited.
This is crap.
It's so good. Donuts,
wait, who thinks muffins? All right, you gotta put a poll.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Oh, we have put a poll up.
We have. We have. And it's muffins have one on Instagram, donuts one on Twitter.
Donuts one on Twitter.
Oh,
you gotta be Threads.
On Threads, yeah.
We have.
You're gonna get the best of both worlds.
That's gonna be the.
We're gonna do it.
So happy
after
Nick likes donuts.
we record this.
This made my day.
Yeah. Well, Nick, I can't believe our time has already.
I know.
Come
I know.
to
I talk
an
a
end.
lot about this stuff.
It was great. We appreciate you being here, but where can people connect with you, find out more about the UCAN Foundation? We want you to plug all those things before we wrap up.
Sure. So you can connect with me on Instagram. You can search Nick Thompson or NThompson513. I'm Nick Thompson513 on TikTok, but I'm not that active on there. And then you can find the UCAN Foundation at the _UCAN _ on Instagram, or you can find us at ucanfoundation.org. You want to get involved, you want to see a little bit more about what we're about. We also just launched a merch store where 100% of those proceeds go to support the foundation. You can find that through our website as well.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put those in the show notes.
Sorry, yeah.
Yes.
My podcast. I have a weekly podcast called Eyes Wide Open with Nick Thompson. And as you said earlier, we address societal issues and stigmas. And I have guests of all walks of life come on and tell their story and share their expertise.
Love it. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been honestly so insightful for me to kind of pull back that veil of reality TV that I think we kind of all knew was there, but also just getting like that confirmation, even more information, and really just allowing us to like hear your story and showing up and sharing that, as well as everything that you're accomplishing from that. And so to our listeners, if you are new to group, or even if you're an established member, make sure that you rate, subscribe, and share this episode. And as always, we leave you with a reflection question, but we're keeping it simple this week. We want to know, what has been your favorite reality show? So head over to our Instagram page, let us know, and we can't wait to see you next week in group therapy.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.